Over 150 videos later, and I have finally done it. I have finally made a video talking about challenges in Survivor. I actually like challenges, mind you, I don't talk about them much. So, let's change that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Peridiam, and there have been hundreds of challenges throughout Survivor's history. From picking rocks out of bags, to flying kites, to building underground death traps. And then you've got endurance challenges, how long can you last? Or physical challenges, such as holding lots of weight on your shoulders. Puzzle challenges, sometimes easy, sometimes less so.
Been out here a long time.
Is that a W or an E?
It's a W.
And then of course you've got those challenges with a little of everything, a nice mixture. Also balls, lots of balls. Regardless, on that note, here are my top 10 favorites. Number 10, we have a challenge called When It Rains, It Pours. An endurance challenge involving a very simple task. Keep your arms up in the air longer than anyone else. Your arm is connected to a giant bucket, and if you even so much as flinch, enjoy the impromptu bath. We've seen this challenge 9 times throughout Survivor, and it's given us some great moments, from Xian taking the win in All Stars to Parvati in Micronesia. We even saw it on Winners at War with Denise and Tony. This is perhaps going to be the simplest challenge of my top 10, but kind of like Jeff in this challenge bringing the food, it rarely fails to deliver.
If you want this chocolate chip cookie and milk, you need to let me know. Oh, no.
That would suck. Oh, bitch.
Number 9. One word. Bowling. Not that bowling. Come on, guys. I'm talking about cliff bowling from one season's Survivor Gabon. Unlike my number 10, this challenge never comes up, and that makes me sad. And no, bowling in Heroes vs. Villains doesn't count. That's not the bowling we're talking about. With cliff bowling, we have 2 teams against each other, with one player from each team at the top rolling a giant wicker ball down a hill, trying to score into goals of varying point values. But at the bottom of the hill would be a blocker from the opposing tribe, attempting to get in the way of the wicker ball. However, what makes this challenge a lot more fun is that the blocker at the bottom is blindfolded, and thus each team gets a caller to assist the blocker. It's a challenge all about communication. And this concept, the visualization of what this challenge is going to be looking like, cracks me up way more than the usual blindfold challenges that you see, or sometimes don't see. Just the thought of someone being at the bottom of a hill, blindfolded, attempting to get in the way of a giant ball made of wicker that they can't see, it amuses me, and it's led to some funny moments, all in one instance. I would love to see this challenge get another chance.
Freeze, Ace, freeze, Ace, freeze! Right there, right there, right there!
Randy pulls the best one on Ace, then that'll do it!
Yes! Yes!
Number 8. Question. Who is the biggest poser in the comment section? If you answered anyone but you, I'm so sorry, you got it wrong. Also, what's a poser? My number 8 favorite challenge is another fairly simple one, but has led to many great moments, and for good reason. It's the Q&A challenge first seen in Survivor the Amazon, but perhaps most infamous from Panama Exile Island. We haven't seen this challenge since One World Season 24, which also disappoints me, but I kinda get it. It's not a challenge intended to be gamed. You really need players to take the challenge at face value, who get touchy with the subject matter to get the most juice out of it, and I feel like the producers got as much as they could. This challenge simply involved the players being asked a series of questions to the side by themselves before the challenge officially starts, which they would then answer in private, and then the players had to guess whose name was answered the most for each question from the rest of the tribe. If you get it right, you get to chop someone else's rope, and you want to be the last person standing. There's a lot of social interplay here. You can't take the answers to heart. It's designed to cause infighting and also demonstrate who is most socially aware of what everyone else is thinking, but I do like that. It can expose the perception of others because you're trying to find the consensus. And if the consensus says they trust you with their life above anyone else, statistically speaking, you're in a great spot.
Who is the biggest poser? Somebody's feelings about to get hurt.
What is a poser?
Reveal. The answer to what is a poser is you.
Number 7. Another challenge we used to see a lot, but now haven't seen in some time, is the Witch Hunt Challenge, originating all the way back to Survivor Borneo, the Blair Witch Hunt project, which, by the way, is probably my favorite iteration of it, season 1. This challenge involves the players listening to a folklore story by Jeff, and then they have to go run around the jungle answering questions pertaining to said story. If they get the question right, they score a point or they get an item or whatever. We've seen this challenge a lot more in the older seasons, with it only appearing once as of late with Survivor Cambodia Second Chance. The most recent version from Survivor Cambodia was actually pretty great. It took place at night and was lit up by torches, and it's honestly one of the only challenges I can remember so vividly since it first happened. I think this challenge should totally come back. I want to know more about Fijian lore. If we're going to spend all this time in this country, let's just learn more about it. Or just douse the challenge in Survivor lore. Regardless, just make sure you get a reference in there about Earl doing the mecha dance. That's all I ask.
Well, the spirit's still in the air to conch show. I don't know. What is the one event that has overshadowed the departure of most of the survivors from tribal council? I don't know. If the spirits cause you to become lost in the jungle, what should you do to find your way home? I don't know.
Number 6. All right, here we go. The big guns are coming out. Number 6 is one of the biggest and most popular of them all, and yeah, it's one of mine too. It's the well-known, well-regarded, and well-missed Survivor Auction. Originating in season 2, we have seen this one a lot. Almost every other season it would make an appearance. It was basically a staple of the show up until season 30, when it suddenly just disappeared right away. The premise of this challenge was that the players were given a certain amount of money to spend on random items, usually food related, at an auction held by Jeff. Sometimes the items were concealed, sometimes there were advantages in upcoming challenge or extra votes. Ultimately, it was a challenge that I loved because it would showcase the players' personalities while also having them compete in a formal manner. Watching the giant chocolate cake get shared only for Eric to lick Cerie's fingers, or Big Tom to freak out and cause an uproarious laugh from Ethan because he would get more ham, or Woo to watch Jeffra get a fat dip of that guac, or Taj practically ripping Jeff's arm off after her loved one reveal. There's a lot of fun to be had here, and I miss it. Unfortunately, similar to the Q&A challenge, it is a very easy challenge to game, as we saw with season 30, and thus it's been retired for now. But I think with more distance, it could totally return down the line.
Something else a little unusual. A never-ending ice cream maker.
Oh!
Oh my God.
For as long as we are at the challenge, you can eat ice cream. 420. 420, the magic number. Eat. Yeah, don't mess around.
Number 5, let's get physical. We actually saw this challenge in the latest episode since this video was made. It's a challenge called Out on a Limb. Again, originating in Borneo, but last being used in the finale of Winners at War. This challenge takes many forms, but it usually involves the players racing through a giant obstacle course to retrieve bags of puzzle pieces. I know, that sounds pretty generic, but the main difference with this challenge is that it's quite elaborate. It's called Out on a Limb because it contains numerous limbs with unique mini challenges for each branch. One may have a stepping stones challenge, another is a rope swing, another is a net crawl. You have to go fast, and it's up to you to decide where to go first, and then second, and then third, and then fourth, and then fifth. I like this kind of freedom in a challenge, especially given how robust the challenge usually is. It also ends with a mental component where the players then put together those puzzle pieces, so it's not entirely physically based, and it does allow for players who fall behind to catch back up.
Ozzy has his 5th and final bag. He can start working on the puzzle. Sophie coming back with her 4th bag. Sophie with a fall. Ozzy still fighting. Sophie wins final immunity.
Number 4. Yup. It's the maze. That's the name of this challenge. It's so simple, the maze, and it sounds so serious. Similar to my number 5, this challenge isn't held often, but we have seen it about 25% of the time over Survivor's history. This is usually the most elaborate challenge visually you will get in a season. Basically, the players have to run through a giant maze to 4 or so markers and collect an item. Once they get all of the items, they either win the challenge or they will have to leave the maze and complete some kind of puzzle to finish the challenge. challenge. I'm a big fan of mazes and going big, and this challenge does exactly that. It's also usually quite epic because it's held when there's only a few players left, so a lot is on the line, and you get to watch the endgamers scramble around as we try to follow them, deciphering who's in the lead. Also, just like my number 5, it's very possible for players to catch up if they fall behind. And sometimes the maze is held with blindfolds, which is equally great to watch. Just look at the finale of Heroes vs. Villains and how close of a finish that became.
Russell hits the post.
Oh, man.
Number 3. Speaking of Heroes vs. Villains, my third favorite challenge ever is also on that season. It's a challenge called By Any Means Necessary, which is kind of badass to say and very fitting once you'll learn what this challenge is, and it takes place in the premiere episode. This is the challenge that the Heroes vs. Villains cast competed in on the beaches where they had to dig up sandbags and then bring them back to their tribe's mat. The kicker with this very simple explanation is that there's only one bag and you and your tribe mate compete against another duo from the other tribe. So get that bag back to your mat by any means necessary. Dislocate your opponent's shoulder, unhook their bra, do what you gotta do. We also saw it in Pure Symmetry as the intro challenge on Winners at War, probably harkening back to Heroes vs. Villains, this time taking place in the water. Also, I've probably seen clips of this one challenge from Micronesia, this exact challenge in that season, more than pretty much any other challenge ever that I can recall. It's a challenge that's mostly physical, but also somewhat tactical too. It's an iconic challenge and one of my favorites.
Harvey working Stephanie over.
Break her shoulder!
Colby now dragging Coach. Sandra undid Sugar's top. Let's go over top. Sugar takes the bag. Sugar gives up vanity and scores.
Number 2. On a similar note, my second favorite challenge ever is heavily underused, and unlike Q&A or Witch Hunt, I don't know why. Is it because it's too physical? I don't think it's that bad. Either way, my number 2 favorite challenge is Sumo at Sea, a challenge where players compete one-on-one on a platform with a padded bag in their hands, and they must attempt to knock their opponent off the edge. This challenge has only been used 5 times, twice with mud, thrice with water, and it has been fantastic every time. Watching Kobe win in Palau, Angie screaming her head off, watching pretty much every round of this in Heroes vs. Villains, also the emotional moments in Blood vs. Water. We had Aris vs. Vetus, Katie versus Tina, Kelly Wentworth getting that clutch win in San Juan del Sur, also Missy versus Baylor, of course. Inspiring, powerful, easily my top 10 without a doubt, and I would love to see it return. Fiji would be such a beautiful backdrop.
And he got him. James is in. Core wins their 4th straight immunity challenge. Go! Villains want to score. Coach going for the head. Coach in trouble. Reed from Hunapu taking on his boyfriend Josh from Koyopa. Let's go, Josh.
Let's go, Josh.
It's Reed. Is that our team?
Number 1. You guys know me. Come on. Come on. What do you think I'm going to say is my number 1 favorite challenge? I will give you like 3 seconds to just figure it out. I'm talking, stalling. My number 1 favorite challenge in Survivor history, hundreds of challenges have happened. My number 1, without a doubt, is hands on a hard idol.
And the challenge is to simply keep your hand on that idol as long as you can. The last person remaining with a hand on the idol wins immunity going into tonight's vote.
It's the final immunity challenge from season 1, Borneo, where the 3 finalists just stand there and endure a rather simple immunity challenge to earn their spots in the final 2 just by leaning on a wooden idol. Obviously iconic, I love this challenge for one simple reason. It's simple, and it asks perhaps the most important question of all. Just how bad do you really want to win this game? You have endured 38 days of starvation, of hunger, of living with really smelly people. How bad do you really want to have a chance to win this game? And as we saw, even if you throw the challenge and maybe even pretend like you don't want to win, that's viable too. You can still win the entire game. This is the climax that Survivor originally ended on, and it makes sense. And if the show ever ends with one final season, This needs to be the last challenge. From a producer standpoint, I understand it can take a long time and that might get boring for Jeff, I'm sorry, but this challenge is everything in one simple frame. And yes, I know technically this isn't the exact same version, but I'm going to be including my favorite iteration of this kind of challenge, the buoy challenge from Survivor Palau, which also originated my number 2 and my number 3 challenges as well. Palau challenges kicked ass. My absolute favorite iteration is the one between Tom and Ian and Katie that lasted 12 hours of them just sitting on a buoy, waiting each other out because neither of them could win without the other losing. It's the rawest challenge you will ever get, and I love it. It's my number 1 favorite, and likely always will be.
Ian, you think this is gonna go a while?
I think so.
How about you, Katie?
Oh, yeah.
Tom?
Couple out. If I beat you at this event, I'm taking Katie to the final. You step off that perch, I'm taking you.
Tell you what, you jump first, we have a deal.
Okay, I'll count to 3.
Yeah, right. No way. We're hanging out here for a while. I like it up here.
Those are my top 10 favorite challenges in Survivor. Not exactly individual instances like picking out one of these iterations over the span of Survivor, but these are the challenges themselves, the structures that I liked the most. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if any of these are your favorite or any others I didn't include, like, you know, the attack zone, of course. But either way, in the end, my name is still Peridiam. I'm saying thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to stay on that perch until your last breath. On your way out? That didn't make sense. And I will see you in the next one once I remind myself to just listen to Randy more.
Put no rush, no rush. Just drop it. Way out here, Charlie. The shot that Maddie took, he would make 9 times out of 10.
Just drop it. No tension on the court at all. Right now, just drop it.
If everybody would have shut up and listened to what I was saying,
then drop it. Let's go home.
Randy.
I had a shot that would have made it 10 times out of 10.
Fang, one big happy tribe, obviously.
Fang with the win!